Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today we're going to be doing some Ancient Gear test hands. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an awesome OTK deck that can summon out all sorts of really powerful monsters to go in for game. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description of every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So this deck is a super fun deck to play that can make some absolutely incredible boards to OTK your opponent and summon out some really powerful boss monsters like Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, which is just a really crazy awesome card to OTK your opponent with. So you guys know the drill. We got to pile shuffle the deck or you run the risk of bricking. Even with a consistent deck like this, you always want to pile shuffle just to make sure. But this deck is super fun because it plays really awesome old school cards like Ancient Gear Golem, which is basically what the entire deck is based around, which is just so cool. I love that card. It's just really, really cool. So now that we got the deck pile shuffle, let's go ahead and see what we can do for our first test hand, because this deck is just really fun to be able to play and just really a good deck. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do. So let's go ahead and cut the deck, shuffle it up a little bit more, give it a little bit of a riffle, and then see what we can draw out of our deck. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of our Infinitrack Anchor Drill, a copy of Magical Hound, a copy of Ancient Gear Hunting Hound, a copy of our Wyvern, and a copy of Hunting Hound. I will mention you guys really quickly, this deck does do a lot better going second. So if you win the die roll, go second. If you lose the die roll, hope that your opponent wants to go first, because you really want to be able to establish cards like your Ancient Gear, Chaos Giant, to be able to just put that card on the field and just OTK the opponent. But even with a hand like this, you still have some really awesome plays, because we can actually just normal summon out the copy of our Anchor Drill, and then Anchor Drill has a really good effect to be able to special summon from your hand a level or an earth monster from your hand. So you actually have two really cool options that you can actually special summon. So you can either special summon out the copy of Wyvern, or you can special summon out the Magical Hound. I would actually probably special summon out the Magical Hound to my side of the field, because it's going to be able to actually go in for a really powerful card, which is going to be Naturia Beast. Naturia Beast is really good in this particular scenario, because being able to throw Naturia Beast on your side of the field is going to negate spell effects, which is just really good. And you have the copy of the Wyvern for follow-up play for next turn, which is really neat. If you're going second, you could have just normal summoned out the copy. I can actually show you guys. We're going to actually, instead of doing that particular play, we're going to normal summon out the copy of the Anchor Drill, special summon out the Wyvern, and if you special summon out the Wyvern at this point, you can actually make them both level 8. The copy of Wyvern would get you a search, which we're actually going to search into Ancient Gear Fusion, which is going to get us even more plays, and then you can overlay both these because they're now both level 8, because your copy of Anchor Drill can target it, turn it into a level 8, and you can actually make something like a copy of number 97, and then overlay into a spell negate, or overlay into a 9,000 attack point monster, and then activate the copy of your Ancient Gear Fusion to throw a copy of Howitzer on the field, and then using these two in the hand if you're going second, which is an option for you guys if you want to go that route, which is really cool. So you have a lot of really good plays in this particular hand to be able to pull off. You can either make Naturia Beast if you know you're going up against a deck that is really spell heavy. If you're going second, you can establish that board like I showed you guys to be able to make the number 97, which is just really cool. I love that about this deck, that there's so many cool plays that you can actually set up. You can normal summon out the Hunting Hound, make a fusion, which is just really cool between your copy of Megaton Golem. So you have just some really good plays. If you draw into another card, you're going to get a copy of Reactor Dragon, which is going to let you go into Chaos Giant. There's just so many plays with this that you can actually pull off. But the safe one is probably making the copy Naturia Beast. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to normal summon out the copy of the Anchor Drill, special summon out the copy of the Magical Hound, synchro these two together, and go ahead and make on our side of the field a copy of the Naturia Beast, which is a spell negate, which is just really, really good. So you have this really insane board already. It's not a lot, but it's still really good because you're basically just setting up for next turn. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck. And we're going to go ahead and pass over to the opponent, get negates with that card, and once we do, we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Gear Town, which is still pretty good, because we can actually normal summon out the copy of Wyvern to our side of the field and get a search of an Ancient Gear card, which can be a copy of our Ancient Gear Fusion. Ancient Gear Fusion is just really good in this scenario, to be able to search out the Ancient Gear Fusion, and then make a copy of Howitzer using these two Hounds, or go into Megaton Golem by using all three of these, which is really, really neat. to be able to just establish that really big board presence, which is just really cool to be able to throw that card on your side of the field because it's any 3 Ancient Gear monsters to be able to make that card. That's really a good board to be able to establish and just OTK the opponent through different plays. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for our next one. We were 1 Ancient Gear card short of making Chaos Giant, which is a little bit of a shame. And we would have taken that Reactor Dragon, we could have actually made it, which was really cool to be able to just establish a really good board. Cards like Overload Fusion are also very good in this deck to be able to just use and go in for a bunch of banishes to be able to summon out Chaos Giant, which is just such a cool card. So let's go ahead and see what we can draw into in the next hand. Draw into an Urgent Schedule, that's pretty good. Foolish Burial Goods, a copy of Reactor Dragon, Ancient Gear Golem, and finally, a copy of Foolish Burial Goods. This is a little bit of a brick, but that's okay. I'm going to show you guys what you can do with this particular hand. We do have a play that you actually can pull off with this hand. So we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of Foolish Burial Goods. And this is why I actually really like this card in the deck, and it's actually Clockwork Knight. So we're going to send Clockwork Knight from our deck to the graveyard. And since this card is in the graveyard, you can actually discard an Earth, or discard a card, and then add an Earth Machine monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect. So we're actually going to send that copy of Foolish Burial to the graveyard, and then we're actually going to send the Foolish Burial that's in our hand to the graveyard, discard it, and banish Clockwork Knight. Once you banish Clockwork Knight, you can actually get a search, which we're going to search out a copy of Wyvern from our deck, which is going to help you out a lot, or you can actually search out another card if you want to. I probably would search out the Wyvern, but you can search out a really cool card, which is the Infinitrack card, which is really good. You can search out the Ancient Gear box if you already had a Ancient Gear Fusion in the hand. I would probably search out the Gearbox because then you get another card and you can make Chaos Giant with this hand, but the copy of Wyvern is pretty much the safe bet to be able to search from your deck to your hand and then normal summon it out to the field. The follow-up plays are what's really important about this deck, so we're going to go ahead and actually just add this card to hand, but if you use the ability of this card, you cannot set cards for the rest of the turn, so you want to make sure that you go ahead and set your copy of your Urgent Schedule. So then we normal summon out the copy of Wyvern. Wyvern's going to get us a search of an Ancient Gear card, which we're going to go ahead and search from our deck a really cool card off this card's effect, which is going to be the copy of the Gearbox, and then Gearbox will go off and let us search an additional card that has 500 attack or 500 defense. So I'm actually going to search out Gear Frame, which is going to be able to search out our copy of our Ancient Gear Fusion on the following turn because it's a spell trap that mentions Ancient Gear Golem in its text, which is really cool to be able to go into our Chaos Giant. So we're pretty much established board at this point. You hope you don't get OTK'd, but you do have the Urgent Schedule as protection, which is fine. So we're going to let our opponent go. We're going to say that they destroy this copy of the Wyvern. You can activate the Urgent Schedule, which is really cool if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, and special summon out to your side of the field 2 cards, which can be the copy of the Express Train, and you can summon out another card, or you can summon out the copy of the Reactor Dragon because it has 3k defense, which is going to be really tough for your opponent to get past, and something like a copy of the Magical Hound, which is just really a good card to be able to put on the field. If your opponent does not deal with these, you can actually go in for Baron, which is really cool, and I'm going to show you guys that play, because this card is just really good, because if you guys have not read Urgent Schedule, if your opponent controls more monsters you do, you can special summon a level 4 or lower and a level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from your deck in defense, but their effects are negated. And also you cannot declare attacks the turn you activate this card, except with machines, and if this set card was destroyed in the field and sent to the grave, you can add a level 10 Earth Machine monster from your deck to your hand, which is just really good to be able to just get these monsters on the field and use it defensively. A lot of people use this card offensively, where you're just going to put these cards on the field, but I like to use this card defensively and put these cards on the field as protection so I don't get OTK'd, so I can OTK on the following turn. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and draw for turn, and we're going to draw into a copy of our Super Express Train, which is really cool to be able to draw on that card. It doesn't matter what we draw, we're just going to discard it anyways for the copy of the Gear Frame. But let's go ahead and use these just to make sure our play goes through. We can actually make a copy of Baron right here, which is really good to be able to just put that card on the field because it's a level 9 and a level 1 to be able to make this card. I love that about this deck, that you can just easily make something like a Baron and just give a negate. So at this point, we can just normal summon out the copy of the Gear Frame. Gear Frame has the ability to discard a card from your hand, and if you do, add 1 Ancient Gear Golem or a card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. So we're going to discard the copy of the Express Train to be able to add Ancient Gear Fusion from our deck to our hand. Ancient Gear Fusion is such a powerful card. I love this card for this deck. So we're going to go ahead and activate it and use 1, 2, 3, 4. Since we don't control the copy of Ancient Gear Golem on the field, we have to use the 1 in the hand, and we're using 4 monsters to go in for our copy of our Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. Now, the cool thing about this is the really neat thing, and I love that about this card, is since you have the barrel on the field, if your opponent tries to negate this, you do have a negate to be able to stop it, which is really cool. And I love that about using the urgent schedule in that way, because a really powerful field is just to normal summon out a copy of Wyvern, get the search that you need, and then summon out the copy of the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant on the follow-up turn, and then OTK, because this card can attack every monster your opponent controls, which is just really cool. I love that. This card must be fusion summoned, cannot be special summoned by other ways. It's unaffected by the effects of spell and trap cards. Your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase, and this card does piercing damage as well. And this card can attack all monsters that your opponent controls once each. So basically, even if they're in attack and defense, you can just keep swinging and swinging and swinging into all their monsters and OTK, which is just really, really cool. I love this card. It's such a powerful card. So let's go ahead and go into the next test hand and see what we can do. And see, even with that hand that was a brick, because you opened up something like this, you still had plays. Like, you still had plays in the hand to be able to establish because of the Foolish Barrel Goods. Foolish Barrel Goods single-handedly turned that entire hand on to be able to just use Foolish Barrel Goods as a one-card starter, to be able to basically send Clockwork Knight to the graveyard to be able to get to Wyvern because it's an Earth machine, which I love that about this deck. This deck has so much potential and so many good plays. This deck needs a little bit of support, it needs a little bit of love by Konami, but it's still really fun to be able to play and OTK your opponent. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for our next test hand. I love the tech cards. And if you guys would like to check out the deck profile, as always, it is down in the description down below. And we're on the road to 100K subscribers, so every subscriber counts. So consider subscribing. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for our next test hand. So we're drawing a copy of Gear Frame, a copy of Ancient Gear Golem, Reactor Dragon. I feel like I'm drawing the same cards. Oh, no, we're not. Catapult, and a copy of Fortress. Okay, this is interesting because we actually have Fortress in the hand and Catapult. So you actually get a double pop, which is really cool. So we're going to activate the copy of Fortress right off the bat, and once you activate the Fortress, we're not going to really worry about the effects of it. You just want to be able to get it on the field so you can pop it with a Catapult. And its ability, if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, then you can special summon from your, you can actually special summon one Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard, but you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Ancient Gears. Activate Catapult, target this card, and if you do, you can actually pop it, special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So we're actually going to pop these and special summon an Ancient Gear monster from the hand, which can be the Reactor Dragon, and then we get a special summon, additional special summon of an Ancient Gear monster, which can be the copy of Wyvern, which then Wyvern can actually get us to a copy of Ancient Gear Fusion, and we haven't even normal summoned yet, so we can actually get even more plays, which is really cool, because we haven't normal summoned our copy of our Gear Frame to get us an additional search. So we can actually go ahead and just normal summon. You can normal summon the Gear Frame, or you can just throw the Ancient Gear Fusion if you want to. You can even tribute summon the Ancient Gear Golem, which is really neat. I love that about this, because you can actually fusion summon an Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra using monsters in hand or field as fusion material. And if you use Ancient Gear Golem or Ultimate Pound that you control as fusion material, you can also use monsters from your deck as material. So you can actually tribute summon out the copy of Ancient Gear Golem, which is really funny to be able to just normal summon Golem, and then use the copy of the Ancient Gear Fusion on the field, and then use monsters from the deck to be able to deck them. I love that about this card. It's really cool to be able to use, and we even get to keep the Gear Frame, which is why I did it this way. So we're just going to use a copy of Hunting Hound in the deck. We're going to use a copy of probably Gear Frame, and we don't want to use Wyvern. We want to use something else that we don't want to get to later on. The copy of the Hunting Hound might be nice to keep in the deck, but we probably don't need the copy of Gearbox at this point. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of that Gearbox. You can probably keep the Gearbox, because if you search out, if you search this card and then search the Anchor Drill, you can actually get a rank 4, which is pretty cool, or a link 2. So let's go ahead and use Reactor Dragon. So we're going to just use the Reactor Dragon. We've already used the Catapult, so it's probably not going to come up again. So we're going to go ahead and make this. We're going to go ahead and make the copy of the Chaos Giant. It's going to be a real tough time for your opponent to out this one card on the field, because it's really tough to deal with. And it's just really big to be able to deal with. And you get this really cool boss monster. If you're going second, you still establish this card, so you can just OTK the opponent right here. And then we're going to go ahead and pass over to the opponent, let them do their thing, and we're going to go ahead and draw. And then we're going to draw into a Magical Hound, which is really cool. I love that about this card. You can actually normal summon this, and then if you want to, you can actually discard this from your hand to be able to search a card that mentions Ancient Gear Golem, which can be Ancient Gear Fusion if you want to, which is really neat to be able to use. Or you can just normal summon it if your opponent has a face-up spell or trap on the field. You can actually bounce it, and then actually special summon out this to your side of the field, and then make on the field a copy of Nat Beast, which is really just extra damage. Swing with this, and you can get some really good damage. So let's go ahead and do another test hand and see what we can do for our next one. As you guys can see, the deck does have some really good consistency at pulling off some good plays, and it's really fun to be able to play. And if you guys, again, would like to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description down below, as always. But let's go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for another test hand. Make sure we didn't actually put any fusion monsters in the main deck. I don't think we did, because I think we just summoned out the copy of the Chaos Giant. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for our next test hand. So go ahead and shuffle and see what we can draw. Go ahead and cut it. And we're going to draw into a copy of Catapult. That's already really good. Urgent Schedule. Hopefully we can get a Gear Town. A copy of our Fusion. Reactor Dragon. Oh, we're looking like a brick. Uh-oh. And a copy of our Therion. That's a real bad brick. Okay. So the deck does brick a little bit, and you guys can see that, and that's why I love doing these test hands, just to show you guys, sometimes even with the best decks, you will brick, but you do have the copy of the Urgent Schedule to be able to put some monsters on the field, which is pretty good. So you can just set this card to the field and pass over to the opponent. It does happen with this deck, because you do play a lot of high levels, and that's okay. It's just going to happen. So when you pass over to the opponent, you can activate the copy of Urgent Schedule, putting you 2 monsters on your side of the field, which can be a copy of the Super Express Train if you want to, and a copy of, say, if you don't feel like they're going to OTK you, you can actually put the Reactor Dragon on the field, and you can put a copy of Magical Hound. These are my 2 targets that I like to put on the field, because it is 2 machines, and one of them is a tuner, so I can actually Synchro Summon during the follow-up turn into Baron. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and let the opponent do their thing after they've done the battle phase. If they don't have damage on board, this is the best way to do it, because then you can make Baron on the next turn. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and draw for turn. Draw into the copy of the Super Express Train. A little bit of a downside, but that's okay. We can still go in for plays. We're going to synchro these 2 together. I know, a little weird to be able to synchro in an Ancient Gear deck, but we're going to synchro into Baron. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of the Regulus, and then summon out Regulus by targeting the Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, which now we have a negate on the field. And then you can actually special summon out the copy of the Express Train, which is going to help you out a little bit. And then also you have some other plays in this particular hand, because if you have a card on your opponent's side of the field, you can special summon out the copy of the Magical Hound. But we don't have an Ancient Gear monster on the field, which is a little bit of a downside, so we can't make Ballista. Actually just takes 2 Earth Machine monsters, so we can actually make that, which is really cool. So we can make Ballista at this point. Ballista goes off, and we'll add a Ancient Gear card from deck to hand, which is the Gear Town. And then once you add Gear Town from your deck to your hand, you can then activate it, use the effect of your Ballista, drop an opponent's monster down to 0, then pop the copy of the Gear Town. Gear Town goes off and special summons out a copy of Wyvern. Wyvern's going to get you a search of a Golem, or a card that mentions it. Or any card, actually. You can actually search anything. So we're actually going to search... let's make this better, because we can actually make a really much better play. Let's search out Box. And then Box will get us an additional search to be able to grab... Where is it? We're going to grab Frame. And then you can fuse these together to make Reactor. Or not Reactor. You can actually make Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. So you get this really good board still. Like this is what's cool about the deck, is you will inevitably brick sometimes with your opening hand. It will happen. It's the way the deck works. It's going to happen. You want to go second in the deck, and I'm showing you guys going first test hands. It's just what it is. We have 2 negates on the field going second because of Urgent Schedule. You have Ballista that's dropped a monster down to 0. You have a 4,500 attack point monster. You have a pop and 2 negates. I mean, that's still pretty good. That's really good for this deck to be able to pop 2 cards on the field, or pop a card on the field, get a negate, 2 negates, and then have this really insane board. It just is really fun. Like, it's really fun going second with this deck, and it's just really insane how well you can actually make some good boards with this build. I love this deck. It's super fun to be able to play. It's a really good classic deck to be able to play, and it's just really, really good to go second. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up, and I'll show you guys really quickly a going second hand. Let's do a going second hand and see what we can do. Again, that was off of an Urgent Schedule. That was just off of a single Urgent Schedule that we pulled off that play, which is just really cool. That started all of that to make that Baron, and then go from there, which is just really neat. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for the next one. So we're going to go ahead and draw. Again, this is going second. This is going second. We're going to draw into a copy of Ancient Gear Fusion, Reactor Dragon, Wyvern, a copy of our Urgent Schedule. If we draw into any other Ancient Gear monster,
a copy of Catapult, and then for our 6th draw is going to be a copy of the Therion. This is fine. We can still play, which is really cool. If our opponent controls more monsters than we do, we can actually activate the effect of our Urgent Schedule, which is going to be able to special summon. We can't attack with anything except for machines, which is not that big of a deal because we can just do this. We can establish the Magical Hound if we want to. We can establish 2 negates on the field if we want to do 2 negates. If we want to be able to get a copy of an Ancient Gear monster on the field, we can still do that. We can actually, instead of summoning the Magical Hound, you can summon out, say, an Ancient Gear frame. The effects are negated, but it's okay. We're going to go ahead and make, let's see, let's summon out a copy of that, and let's summon out a copy of the Reactor Dragon. So we're going to summon out these 2 to our side of the field. This is actually why I play 2 copies of Reactor Dragon. It's for the Urgent Schedule. So now that we have those on the field, you can actually activate the Ancient Gear Fusion if you want to at this point, but we haven't normal summoned, so we're going to just normal summon out the copy of the Wyvern on our side of the field. Wyvern's going to get us a search, and we're going to search out a copy of Golem to our hand. And once you summon out that, search out that Golem, you can actually link these 2 away, summon out the copy of Ballista. Ballista's going to go off, and Ballista is going to add your copy of Gear Town to hand, activate the copy of Gear Town, and once you do, you can actually activate the ability to be able to pop a card, which is going to be the Gear Town, and once you pop that Gear Town, you're going to be able to special summon a copy of an Ancient Gear monster from the deck. Wyvern is once per turn, but your copy of your Hunting Hound is not. So we can actually special summon out Hunting Hound to our side of the field, do 500 burn damage, and then we can actually summon out our copy of our Regulus since we have some monsters in the graveyard. So we can actually special summon out the copy of Regulus. We're only going into Earth Machines, so we're going to put the copy of Reactor Dragon attached to it, and then you can activate the Ancient Gear Fusion or just activate the Hunting Hound effect to be able to put all of these cards into it, and then make your copy of your Chaos Giant. So you have the OTK. So that's pretty cool to be able to just do that. And now you have a negate on the field. The only downside is you did activate the copy of the Urgent Schedule, which does lock you into machines. So the Baron was a little bit dead, so you couldn't activate that. But it's still pretty good to be able to activate Urgent Schedule and put 2 machine monsters that are Earth on the field and be able to just basically make this field, which is still pretty good. You dropped a monster down to 0, you have a negate on the field, and you have basically the OTK machine, which is just really good to be able to establish a field like this. So that's pretty much going to do for this one, guys. You guys see how the deck works. Again, very much going second deck. If you guys want to play this deck, try and go second as much as possible to be able to OTK. You can make cards like NajarinPrime if you do go first, which is really cool. Quick shout out to Turtle Tactics, who actually showed me the Magical Hound tech card. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, as always, it is down in the description down below. It's super fun. It's really crazy how many tech cards we have in the deck, like the Therion cards and all the other cards we're playing in this build. So anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.